Hello everyone, this is Just a Dad. Today I'm going to show you how to use a reusable K-Cup on this Keurig K-Slim. This is a really nice coffee maker. I'm going to be using the Perfect Pod, and I'm also going to be using the Keurig's new My K-Cup. Now this one is $10. It says it has a new design. Now this Perfect Pod, I am going to be using a paper filter with it. I don't have any paper filters with this. Perfect Pod sells the paper filters, and it also comes with this scoop, which is really nice for the Perfect Pod and this one. So say you want to make a cup of coffee with your own coffee grounds. This machine is capable of doing that, but you need to use a reusable K-Cup. So let's start off. So here's a K-Cup. A normal coffee K-Cup has 2 tablespoons of coffee grounds inside it. That's about all. That's the most coffee grounds we can get in. Now this one does about 2.5 tablespoons. This one does 2 tablespoons. Now the biggest difference between these two, you've got this one. This one is actually the same size as a K-Cup. It looks almost identical to a K-Cup. And that's why when we open this up, we're able to leave this needle basket in. It just goes in there and sits like that. It's got a recessed area down there for that needle. It's not going to puncture this, but it sits down there so it doesn't puncture that needle. Whereas with this one's a little bit bigger. We've got to take this gray thing off. This is for a different style of coffee maker. So we've just got this. We've got to take this needle basket out. So poke up from the bottom and kind of pinch these tabs. And we got to take the needle basket out. Once the needle basket's out, then this sits in there, and now we can put our coffee grounds in here and use this. So that's one of the biggest differences. Is one, you can leave the needle basket in, one you have to take the needle basket out. Now this Perfect Pod. I've been making some coffee in this, and it doesn't work perfect every time. So you do get some water that comes up around, and you will get just a little bit of water that leaks out kind of in an area that it shouldn't, because normally you'll have your coffee stream coming out and you'll see some water coming out of the sides. That may or may not happen when I brew for this video, but for the most part it does work pretty good. So the coffee we're going to be using is already ground. You can grind your own coffee. It just has to be to a medium grind. Like for a normal, that's what a normal coffee maker takes. This is a normal Folgers for a coffee maker. And if you look, it's ground to a medium grind. Not too fine and not too coarse. If it's too fine, the water won't go through it. It'll clog up. If it's too coarse, you won't get enough flavor. I'm going to divide this video in two. So the first part, I'm going to do the Perfect Pod, the reusable K-Cup. Again, it looks just like a K-Cup. It's got this lid that opens up. It's got an O-ring on there. Now you can put this is a filter. It's kind of like a wire mesh filter. You can put your coffee grounds right in here, and that's perfectly fine. It's just, I'm going to show you that when you don't use a paper filter, you do get some sediment in your coffee. I don't know if sediment's good or bad for you, but I want to show it to you. So Perfect Pod sells these filters that go right in here, a paper filter. Now make sure you push it all the way in, because we got to make room for 2 tablespoons of coffee. So here I've got my paper filter in. Now this easy scoop is 2 tablespoons. I like to go just a little bit less, so you can just scoop your coffee grounds up. You know, I like to go just a little bit less because it's got that paper filter in there. And it just makes things a little easier. And then we put the top on, and then we can pour our coffee grounds right into the pod. Now it's okay if it's mounded up. The biggest thing is we don't want any coffee grounds on this lip. When we close this, we want to make sure there's no coffee grounds. Don't compact this or anything. Just leave it nice and loose. Okay, so I've got the lid closed. There's no coffee grounds underneath the lid. That's very important. Now you do get some coffee grounds right in here. Normally I just dump those back into the thing. Make sure there's no coffee grounds on the outside of this. It will make its way to your drink. So now we treat this just like a normal K-Cup. You're going to come up to your machine. You're going to leave the needle basket in. You're just going to put it in. Make sure it's nice and flush. Close the handle. You shouldn't have to force this. It closes nice and easy. Now I can brew this how I normally brew a K-Cup. I brew my K-Cup coffees on 8 ounce, but you're more than welcome to brew them on 10 or 12 if you want. Those are just taste a little bit weak to me. The 8 ounce setting is a pretty good setting for me. 8 ounce K. Okay, so now it's brewing like a normal K-Cup. See how you got your coffee coming out nice and steady at first? You may get some drips coming out. See, there's some drips. There's some water coming out that shouldn't be coming out in that area. Now this time it's doing it a little bit more than last time. See, the coffee should just come out right the center, but you do get some drips coming out around the side here. You know, I wish this Perfect Pod worked a little better, but it doesn't, because it is a nice pod. It works in some Keurigs, and some Keurigs it doesn't work the best. I don't know what the difference is yet. Okay, so now I'll show you why. So see how you get a bunch of water on top. And what it is, the needle is injecting, it's trying to inject that hot steam in there, but sometimes it just leaks out around. And then it kind of comes over here, and then it drips underneath your needle basket, and that's how you see water drops coming down. So, you know, that's not the best thing. I wish this thing worked a little better than it does. Like I said, in some Keurigs it works absolutely flawlessly, in others it doesn't. Like this should seal around that and prevent that. So people ask me a lot of times, how does it taste? These reusable K-Cups taste every bit as good as a K-Cup. I don't notice a big taste difference, but at least they're not different, I guess is what I'm saying. You can get the exact same flavor. Now, so with using a reusable K-Cup, you can use some of your local coffee shop coffee beans or something, have them grind it up, and you can come home and use it in your K-Cup. If you get a bunch of backup, maybe the grind is not right. So the grind should be like a medium, normal coffee grind. Okay, so let's go over cleanup. Be careful, these can be hot. I'm going to show you. Cleanup is relatively simple. You do have to wash them with soap and water, but like the lid gets a bunch of stuff on it, coffee grounds. But the filter, you can pull this whole basket out now. There's your reusable K-Cup filter. So I'm going to cut open this. This is a K-Cup I brewed earlier. I'm going to cut it open and show you what's inside. So you can see it's got 2 tablespoons of coffee, but it also has a coffee filter. So in the bottom of the K-Cup, there's that coffee filter. I'm going to push it out. So your coffee sits in a paper coffee filter. And that's why when you do K-Cups, you don't see sediment in your coffee. And again, when I use this Perfect Pod with a paper filter, I don't see sediment in my coffee. Okay, so now let's switch gears. Let's go to the Keurig My K-Cup. Again, it comes with this adapter. This is for like a different Keurig. We're not going to be using this adapter, this gray adapter. So you got to take the sticker off and then take this adapter off. We're just going to be using this. It's got this white dots, so it's got locked and unlocked. We're going to move it to the unlocked position and pull it off. Here's the filter basket. It just snaps on. There's an O-ring there. This is where we're going to be putting the coffee grounds. Now see how it has a max line? This does hold a little bit more coffee. It holds almost 2.5 tablespoons of coffee. It's a wire mesh screen. Now, I have not found a paper filter that fits in there. These Perfect Pods, they don't fit in there. So we're going to have to use this with just no paper filter, just by using coffee grounds. Now let's go over an important part. So here we have the lid. Now it says this is the new design. This is for the the Keurig machines that have 5 needles. This red thing is very important. You're going to make a huge mess if you don't have this red thing in there when you have a single needle Keurig machine. Now this one, the K Slim, only has a center needle. So we want to make sure and leave that red thing. And you'll know that by just looking at it. Okay, there's just one needle. So over here I've got the K Supreme. It's got the 5 needles. They call that the multi-brew sense technology. I would take that red thing out so that all those needles could fit in that K-Cup on this machine. And again, you want to make sure that this red thing, it just fits in there. I leave mine in there even when I clean it, because I used this one time with this off, and it made the biggest mess. Coffee grounds came out these other holes inside the Keurig machine. I spent about a half hour cleaning my Keurig machine. Make sure this red thing is in there nice and tight. So this is just a holder for this. So let's put our coffee grounds in here. Same thing, just a medium grind. I'm going to use, I like this Perfect Pod scoop, works really well. So I got my 2 tablespoons of coffee. I'm going to close the lid, and it really just pours it in there really nice. Now again, you're going to see I got just I had a little bit more than 2 tablespoons, but I can put just a little bit more in there. I like to use just 2 tablespoons because for the 8 ounce it seems about perfect. So now we just got to reassemble it. We're just going to set this in the black thing. Now the black thing has a white dot. I'm going to get this. I'm going to line the white dots up on the unlock position. You got to kind of press down, and as you turn it to the lock, kind of hold down. It's going to kind of click. And make sure these are all in. I have been able to turn this, and one of them was up out of its detent. So make sure those are all seated and we're in the locked position. The red thing's installed. Now this thing's ready to be used. Again, be careful. This machine, that needle is just way out there in the open. So we've got to take this needle basket out. Again, push from the bottom. This can be hot, so be careful. And kind of press these tangs together, and it just comes right out. We're just going to set this off to the side. Now this reusable K-Cup will only go in one way. It's got an arrow. So the arrow is going to go like towards the inside of the machine, and it's got this big opening right here, and that's where that goes. You don't want to get this off because you could break your machine when you go to close it. These parts are not the beefiest, and they will break really easy. So make sure this is nice and flush all the way around, nice and level, and you're just going to close. There's not much more effort. The handle should close nice and easy. So again, with this reusable K-Cup, you can brew this on any ounce setting you want. You know, by putting 2.5 tablespoons in, you might be able to go up to the 10 ounce. It still tastes just a little bit weak, not as bad as a normal K-Cup. But again, I like to do 8 ounce in the K. So just like a K-Cup, at first, it's kind of pretty strong. And then towards the end of the process, it's pretty light colored. But you'll notice I'm not getting any water dripping out around. The My K-Cup does work really well in that aspect. So there you've got an 8 ounce coffee with your own coffee grounds using the My K-Cup. So now let's go over cleanup. Again, you do get, even with this one, you do get a little bit of water that kind of stays on top, but at least it doesn't come out and around and drip out in places it shouldn't. So again, be careful, this can be hot. And again, people ask me about taste. I'm not a coffee taste expert by no means. It does make a very good cup of coffee. And to me, to be honest with you, that sediment, I can taste it, but it actually makes it taste a little better. That is the weirdest thing, but I think sediment, it actually does make your coffee taste a little smoother. I know, and maybe again, I don't know what I'm talking about, but that's kind of what my process is on that. Okay, so here we got the K-Cup, the reusable K-Cup. And now let's go over this. You're just going to turn this to the unlock. Again, you might have to wash this out too. It gets kind of some coffee in there. You're just going to pull this off. You're definitely going to have to wash that. It gets some coffee grounds on it. And there's your coffee grounds. So it does a pretty good job with them. And there's your coffee grounds out. And again, you're going to have to clean this up because you do get some residue in there from the coffee and a bunch of coffee grounds. So when we're done with this pod, we got to reinsert the needle. So the main thing I see is make sure you can read caution sharp needles. It's got those two tangs that go right there, and then there's that one up there that goes there. And so the needle will be facing kind of the machine. So put it in there and it should just snap in. Make sure it's nice and flush. Again, make sure when you close the handle, you're not forcing it. Nice and easy. So again, I've tasted all of these. My K-Cup does taste pretty good, but I'm going to show you. I'm going to pour these out and I'm going to show you the sediment. And again, this is just a normal K-Cup. Okay, so let's pour it out. You don't notice the sediment until the coffee has sat for a little bit. And see down at the bottom there, you get just a little bit. That's from a normal K-Cup, just a little bit. So let's do the perfect pod. Again, I used a paper filter with the perfect pod. You don't get any, maybe just a little bit of sediment. Nothing hardly at all. Again, that was the perfect pod. So now let's go to the My K-Cup. So you're going to notice this at the bottom of your coffee cup. That's a lot of sediment. Again, I don't know if it's good or bad for you. I've had several cups of coffee with sediment in it, and I didn't know it had it until I got to the bottom. But I just wanted to show everybody that. So I do wish the perfect pod worked a little better. I'm gonna buy some different. There's a bunch of these. This is the one Walmart sells, but Amazon has like 10 different reusable K-Cups that are sold, and they all pretty much look the same, but the filter is a little different, you know. So I'm gonna do some more videos after I buy a bunch of those, because I really want this to work. I like not having to take the needle basket out, you know, just treat it like a normal K-Cup, and I can use a filter. Now, this one does work the best, but you do get sediment in your coffee. If you got any questions, leave them in your comments down below. I'll try to help you out as much as I can. Thanks everybody for watching. I really appreciate everybody's support. And if you could, please like and subscribe.